Good afternoon, class. Today, we are going to talk about Mr. Speak. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, aren't you Mr. Speak? I am a Mr. Speak, but there's a real Mr. Speak. There's the Mr. Speak, as you might say, my dad. Today, we're in Dad 101, and we're talking about the big man. When we're talking about the big man, we're going to talk about his career and all the big moves he's done. But if we're going to do that, we're going to start from the beginning. Starting at the beginning, while most students at 16 are learning to get their driver's license, my dad was learning to fly. And not only that, he was learning to fly with a legend, the legend of Evelyn Johnson, who has more hours than most any other pilot out there, hours flying in the air. Not only was my dad learning to fly in high school, but he was also playing the quarterback in football. He was running track. He was doing yearbook. Uh, you think he's an overachiever much? We haven't even gotten started. So after high school, oh, don't forget, here he is, a young man. There's the 1979 Thunderbird he had. I don't know if I would trust, no offense, any of you high schoolers with flying a plane, but I definitely would trust my dad. All right. So, after high school, he went to UVA. He did not stop flying. In fact, he started doing a lot of instructing there to build a bunch of flight hours so he can go pro. So while he was at UVA, he made a bunch of connections and found himself a job with World Newspapers, where he was flying Learjets. Basically, it sounds like an 80s action movie, but it's real life. So once we get up to cruising altitude here, my dad took another job at Virginia National Bank where he was able to fly a King Air. And while he was there at Virginia National Bank in Virginia Beach and Norfolk area, he found the love of his life, which is my mom, Miss Speak. And they got married back in 1984. My dad didn't stop making moves there. That's a Mr. Captain Speak to you. So after he worked for the bank for a bit, he transitioned over to Piedmont Airlines, was a airline company that was, pun intended, taking off. And during this time, he had 3 kids. I've listed them here. Carrie Joe, the cool one, Timothy, the middle child, or the funny one, and Pete, the wild one, who ended up being in the ER too many times, probably for my dad's taste, but ended up working out. Somehow or another, I became a teacher. Here is an old map of Piedmont Airlines. Where in the world is Mr. Speak? We have a fun little animation here of my dad flying across the map. Gotta love that. Yeah, so Piedmont. Piedmont eventually got absorbed by a company called US Airways, and this is where my dad became the big dog. He started flying the big planes with like a Boeing 737. Later, due to some global turbulence, some big kind of things happened, and my dad decided to switch over to Southwest, which in my opinion was a great choice. And you may ask, why do you think it's a great choice to go to Southwest? That's because Southwest is awesome, first off. Second off, Southwest saw the potential in my dad, and by that, they eventually made him the assistant chief pilot, which is crazy impressive. He went over a whole bunch. He was just leading and mentoring a whole new generation of pilots. He was in charge of a lot of the flight operation standards, making sure that the planes are flying safely when they need to be flying and landing safely when they need to be landing. And then he also looked over the risk and resource management at Southwest, which is dealing with the unexpected. When you have flying, there's lots of unexpected. So this is really important stuff. And he took a little bit of a step back from flying as much, getting those hours up. But even despite that and all of this incredible work he's done, He has logged over 25,000 hours in the air, which is absolutely incredible. At this point, he is technically cleared for landing. He has logged all those hours and trained a whole generation of pilots. I can't imagine you going into an airport and my dad not having had some impact on the people who work there, or the airlines that work there, or just anything that's associated with it. He is a pretty incredible man. Um, and he's done, that's not it. He's done more. He raised 3 kids, which is an incredible achievement. I think we turned out pretty all right. I'm a little bit biased though. And honestly, he is the hardest working and most honorable man that I know. Um, it's all pretty incredible. I think navigating Parenthood might be a little bit harder than landing a 747 in a storm, but he's handled both. So what's up? What's next for my dad? I'm not quite sure. I've come up with a couple possible options. Maybe dad goes to space. That'd be a fun little tangent there. Dad flies fighter jets. That would be righteous. Dad relaxes. Unlikely. That man has so much drive that I imagine that this is all just a touch and go. His current retirement. I'm sure he's going to be taken off here again any second. So, from one Mr. Speak to another, I want to read this to you, and then I'll call it here at the end of class. Captain Dad, your journey so far has been legendary, but every great pilot knows that this landing is just a touch and go. Whatever's next, we know that you'll navigate it with some skill, dedication, and humor that got you here, and I can't wait to see what's next. So, if you guys join me in the next class, I will teach you what he taught me, which is how to pick up sticks in the woods. Have a good one.